Honkai Star Rail has earned the reputation of having pretty boring endgame content. You know, HP in the millions, having bosses that might as well have a character's name on it, and taking forever to reset. So with that, players long for a new mode and something more interesting. With the new update we got in Honkai Star Rail, we had the release of Anomaly Arbitration. Since it was first announced, we knew that this was going to be a very endgame mode. To even unlock this mode, you need to complete Memory of Chaos, Apocalyptic Shadow, and Pure Fiction, all with max stars. I have no issue with that, given that if you can't clear those, then you're definitely not going to clear this. The way Anomaly works is actually pretty different compared to the other modes. Instead of the usual 2 teams, you select 3 teams with no overlap allowed. There are 3 bosses you need to fight, and winning each one will weaken the final boss. If you just want to raw dog it and ignore these stages, this boss has around 173 million HP. You heard me right, 173 million. So it's very important you take out the night stages first before you can get to the big guy. On the night stages, there are 3 different bosses you have to fight. Each boss is a different boss trait that is mostly used to debuff you, like reducing your crit damage. While these debuffs are supposed to make you weaker, they serve more as a way to buff up specific teams. One of the floors has the memory zone meme, and that one will reduce your crit damage. Do you know what archetype can't crit? DOT. I ended up just brute forcing this with a high investment in Naxa, but if you don't have either of those, then it's going to be a difficult time. The bosses in general can be a slog to get through without really good sustains, or if you don't have a character like Firefly against the Puppet Trio. These bosses were definitely more difficult than MLC 12, but it should not be the worst thing in the world if you have a strong roster to use against it. I will say it was nice to bring my Firefly back and to use her against the Puppet Trio. After you complete these, the main boss will have his HP reduced from 173 million to 43 million, so a lot more manageable. Still absurdly high, but not as much. You are able to select a buff of your choice, which is actually really good and something I appreciate. They are also quite universal. Instead of having 1 debuff like the lower levels, the boss has 3, which include losing HP when attacking, reducing energy when attacking, and stacking damage called Sunder, which can be cleared by healing or shielding. The final boss in this reset is one of the newest bosses in the game, Lygus. But before you fight Lygus, you need to deal with 4 million HP elites that are there to stall your time pretty hard. These are just punching bags to slow you down before you get to the big fight. As for Lygus, despite me not really caring about Inforius as a whole, I'm actually a pretty big fan of this boss fight. So now he's back, with 4 times the HP. I should also mention that I did not notice a single difference in mechanics throughout any of the fights in my time playing this mode. They work exactly the same as the previous bosses, just with more HP. The release of this mode just proves why Apocalyptic Shadow is a far superior game mode compared to this HP slogfest. While the bosses are the same at base, they have new and fresh ideas for gimmicks, like Hule having a full-blown duel in his boss fight. But this mode throws all of that out the window and sticks with the exact same fight with just some more health.
It's the same shit!
It could have been really cool and interesting, but instead it just bloated HP pools. And not only do the enemies have a crap ton of HP, they also do a lot more damage. When I tried to switch from Hyacine to another sustain, I was getting destroyed. I am very glad that Don Hung is being given out for free because you're gonna need him in this mode. I know Casterus has something to do with this, but I just can't prove it yet. This also results in fights taking forever. Like if you mess up at all or get bad RNG, your characters can die and you have to restart the run all over again. And I had this happen to me more than once. If you have ever played Genshin Impact before, you would notice that this mode is very similar to Stygian Onslaught. I mean, that has 3-team combat, and this has 3-team combat. Those bosses are very shilled, and these bosses are very shilled. I expected Hoyo to take notes of some of the flaws of Stygian Onslaught and to try to remedy them here, but honestly these modes are pretty damn similar, and I'd argue this one is actually weaker. Something important I should point out is that this mode gives a grand total of 0 pull currency, so if Jades are all you care about, then this mode does not matter that much. But it does still give some other stuff. Clearing all of the night stages with max stars will give you 3 self-modeling resins, which is perfect with the brand new item. One of the new additions in 3.6 is the interference key. If you want to reroll a relic, it will allow you to block one stat from upgrading, only letting it level up into 3 different stats. HSR was nice enough to let us have one for free just by logging in and claiming it in the mail, but the only other way to get them right now is to clear the hardest stage of Anomaly Arbitration within 6 cycles, which honestly is not the hardest thing to do. Playing this mode will grant you a new currency called Stardust to buy items. The items you are able to buy are honestly pretty underwhelming. When I saw this shop, I immediately thought back to my Endgame video where I said this.
We don't know what these cosmetics are going to be, but I think the most likely answer is character skins. Because trust me, if we have to grind this mode and the reward is a pom-pom skin, I don't think many people would be thrilled.
Bitch!
And surprise surprise, I was right about the shop. This shop doesn't affect gameplay with the exception of the Tears of Dreams, which are still valuable. I don't really know what I was expecting, but I guess I expected something a little bit more valuable instead of complainer. They could at least give us more leveling materials or something. Hell, if they're feeling extra dangerous, maybe they could give us something like light cone shards since they are completely unobtainable unless you spend money. I know people would complain about it being locked out, but if they were given a set amount, that wouldn't matter because you can still save up your Stardust over time. One of the most memed on comments in the past few months has been,
let whales have one thing, you know?
And as controversial as that may be, I think there is some truth to that. I think in some aspects rewarding the whales for their continued support of the game is fine. But does this mode make me want a whale or even feel rewarded for being one? Definitely not. If I'm just speaking from my own experience, I am not free to play in Honkai Star Rail. I have quite a bit of characters and even an E6 Jing Liu, so it was literally up to her to be able to clear this. And the best I was able to do was a 2-star run on Lygus, which if I'm gonna be honest, I'm surprised she could even do. Okay, so acts from the future here. So after trying a lot of runs, I was able to get a 3 cycle on Lygus. This was a pretty tight run and I needed very high investment on Jing Liu, but it is doable. I did not get very good RNG on Lygus refunding the ultimates, but with better RNG and insane luck, 2 cycles might be possible. But for now, this is what's doable without more Eidolons in a Sunday or Hyacine. But anyways, back to the video. Even with my E6 character, I will still lag behind someone who pulled E2 casters premium. It's been quite clear that the difference between certain characters at high versus low Eidolons is pretty big, and this mode only further cements that. I simply did not bet on the right horse, and I guess it is what it is. I am the target audience for a mode like this, but it really just did not interest me the second I realized I'm gonna have to live with my score because I didn't whale on the right character. All of this is not to say Hoyoverse can't make good endgame content, they still do, and Apocalypse Shadow and Deadly Assault is proof of that. So when we're given modes like this that are honestly pretty boring, it feels terrible. So how do we actually fix this mode? Well, I think we need to do a few things. The framework of having to fight 3 bosses to reduce the king's HP is actually really cool, but the bosses themselves are kind of plain. I would really like to see more unique mechanics on these bosses. It doesn't have to be at the same level as APOC, but just a small thing to help differentiate it to easily tell it apart. For the king stage, I don't think the beginning wave even needs to be there, it just adds extra fat that the mode doesn't need. If they want to rebalance some of the HP to Lygus himself, then that's fine, but these are simply punching bags to stall your AV. Lygus is a perfectly fine boss conceptually, but he should still have some difference between the MLZ fight and this. The most common rebuttal to everything I just said is, well, this mode is optional and it has no Jades. And you know what? They're right. So why did I just spend the last few minutes talking about this mode if it ultimately doesn't matter? I bring this up because it would have been a perfect opportunity to mend some of the issues that plague Honkai's endgame, but it really did nothing. After this mode launched, I realized a lot of the critiques don't only come from the mode in isolation, but also how HSR handles it as a whole. I made a video last month about Hoyo's endgame, so I'll try not to repeat myself and focus on the bigger picture. But I think this game really needs to reconsider the way endgame is handled. Honkai Star Rail simply does not offer enough to keep people engaged whether you are a whale or a free-to-play. And with that, Braxophone unironically said it best.
We are finally getting a new game mode, and you guys know what it's going to be? It's going to be one of 2 things. 1, you clear it, and then you're bored and you have nothing to do. Or 2, you don't clear it, and you're bored and have nothing to do.
He's out of line, but he's right.
You go in once every 2 weeks, play the endgame for like 20 minutes, if you have the new unit it's a cakewalk, and if you don't, well then have fun. And then you wait another 2 weeks for it to reset again. Rinse and repeat. Anomaly Arbitration does nothing to combat the monotony of the tediousness of the current endgame climate. Before this mode ever launched, there was a theory that this mode would actually offset the HP inflation in the other modes and move it here. Now, I'm not really a League channel, but if you've seen the HP chart, well...
That one didn't age quite so well.
And while I'm not going to go into the specifics of what Cyrene does, I'll just say right now that she is not strong enough to justify the HP nearly doubling. As much as HSR doesn't look like they listen, we do know they technically are open to criticism, and they do have the ability to make changes. If we want to use an example, character buffs. It took non-stop complaining from the player base for months for them to finally do it. The dev team have likely been well aware of these issues for a long time now, but having these issues persist into the new game mode, as well as no older mode being updated, sets the impression that they did not learn from the past. HSR needs to come up with new ways to keep people on the game and invested in clearing the tougher content. And I think one of the ways to do that is to speed up the endgame rotations. They would probably have to cut back on the rewards a bit, but Hoyo does this as endless, and I actually think it's nice that it gives me something to look forward to do each week. Given how HSR has next to no event content in the current patches, players are reliant on these experiences for entertainment. And this may be unpopular, but I think there really needs to be some more incentive for actually grinding out the harder content. Because really, what exactly are you playing endgame for? Sure, it might give you some solar jades and some resources, but I don't think the current endgame landscape feels fulfilling for those who have been playing for a very long time. 9 out of 10 times before going into a fight, you know exactly what the result is going to be. You're either going to completely obliterate the game with a new character, or you're going to get your ass kicked, and that's not fun. I know another popular counterpoint will be that Hoyo needs to make money, and once again, yes, that is true. But that's not the issue here. Well, yes, obviously a company wants to make money. What is also important is to retain your audience. There needs to be a hook, or in gacha terms, glue, to keep you engaged and wanting to come back for more. If you cannot keep a player's attention in a live service game, you're probably going to lose them. Since that's the case, why don't we add something new to the game that would help the endgame players more? Maybe if you finish MLC 12, you can get the opportunity to vote on what boss you want to see updated and brought back into the future resets. It would make the players feel like they have more of a choice and also bring the community together to discuss what we want. On the Hoyo side, why don't you take every boss, weed out all the unpopular or outdated ones, and select some good candidates to bring back for the endgame resets. For older bosses especially, they really should be updated to fit with the current times. Having fun, engaging, and repeatable content will result in not only a very happy player base, but more importantly, money. And what does Hoyo want?
Money!
When people are having fun with something, they are more likely to spend money. Yeah, having a good game will make people want to spend money, who would have fucking thought? But if I'm being pessimistic here, I don't know if they can go back in the way they've been handling Anomaly as well as the endgame as a whole. Power creep has essentially backed them into a corner, and endgame is always something they've struggled with. I wanted this to be a new, fun, refreshing mode, and given how low that bar was set, it wouldn't have been hard at all. But unfortunately, this joins the collection of poorly designed Hoyoverse modes. That's part of why I'm sort of tired of 3.x as a whole. I still have no issues covering it, but I've noticed I enjoy making videos about Star Rail a lot more compared to actually playing it myself. Things like the story does have good moments, but if the base game doesn't have me interested, then what's the point? I really sound like a broken record talking about these endgames. It has potential, but it's underbaked. It has good framework, but it's boring. I don't want to be negative and choose to be more critical, but I'm tired of all these modes not being engaging or fun. This is the most frustrating thing to me. It's a mode with noticeably good aspects such as the 3-team combat and some different buffs. This mode strengthened a lot of preconceived ideas on Star Rail's endgame that I had, and that's not a good thing when you're already left unimpressed. I really did want to make a video talking about how great Anomaly Arbitration was. It's a mode with some good redeeming qualities, but unfortunately the cracks are still showing through. I hope that the glaring issues will be resolved over time, but if not, well then I guess that's just how it goes. I know this was a harsher video, but I'm genuinely curious to hear what people think about this mode and endgame as a whole, so let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, and consider joining the Discord down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.